Welcome to part 2 of TensorFlow Basics, Graphs and Sessions. Now that we've learned the basics of tensors and variables, we can move on to seeing how they fit in the broader landscape of TensorFlow graphs and sessions. Graphs and sessions are really at the core of what gives TensorFlow its unique feel. If you can master your understanding of them, everything else we cover will feel more natural. Conversely, and I can say this from experience, if you neglect your understanding of these concepts, working with TensorFlow will be frustrating. Therefore, the goal of this video is to provide the intuition that will hopefully save you countless hours in the future. We'll begin with a quick overview of TF graph and TF session objects. We'll also work through some illustrative code examples for each and wrap up with a summary of the key ideas to keep in mind when using graphs and sessions. The TensorFlow graph is perhaps the most important data type in TensorFlow, and yet we don't need to think about it very often, aside from some advanced use cases. This is because TensorFlow handles the nitty-gritty details of graph building automatically via the notion of the default graph. For example, as we can see by the code on the right, anytime we create a tensor or variable, it's automatically placed in the default graph. The general workflow in TensorFlow is that we define the operations, which are the graph nodes, and their input or output dependencies, which are the edges, and TensorFlow will construct this in the form of a computation graph behind the scenes. In future videos, we'll see how to explore this graph visually with the TensorBoard utility. Also shown in this snippet is that we can specify which graph we want to use at any given time. The example here illustrates how operations in tensors are associated with a specific graph. If no context is specified, then the default graph is used, but if we create operations within the context of a specific graph, where context here means anything under the with statement, then those operations are associated with that graph instead. Let's go to the Jupyter notebook for this video to see a little bit more examples. Okay, so first I do some things we're already familiar with. I create some variables, x, y, and z. I give them some random shapes, and I do z being a matmul operation just to spice things up a little bit. Print out assertion that we have z's shaped be what we expect to be. That's nothing new, that's nothing about graphs there. And I add z to something called a collection. So a collection is related to graphs. TensorFlow graph collections are a nice utility we can use to store certain variables or groups of variables inside a named collection. So it's kind of like a variable scope, except it does not alter the name of z, and we can add z to multiple different types of collections, so it's just kind of a convenience bucket for accessing variables later. So if I say tf add to collection my collection z, z will then be in that collection for our default graph, and if I later call tf.get collection, shown here, I can get the same variable z again, and it'll return an array, so I have to index 0. Back to graphs, let's make sure that all the variables we created are inside of our default graph. So we call default graph equals tf.get default graph, that is how you explicitly access it. And we do a search for each of x, y, and z that they are indeed inside the default graph. That's because for each variable we create, each variable has a property called graph, which tells us the graph object that the variable belongs to. And to further nail down the point, we can also explicitly call default graph.get collection my collection, and we see that z is indeed inside of it. So tf.get collection is actually kind of a convenience wrapper around default graph get collection. Under the hood, it's just going to call get the default graph and then get collection, because get collection is actually a method for the graph class, tf.graph. Scroll down for some ways of inspecting a graph object. tf.graph has a few useful methods. We have get operations, get collection keys, get tensor by name, and get operation by name. So let's see the printout for our default graph. Get operations yields an array of every single operation that has been created for this graph. We see that for each variable of our x, y, and z, there are multiple operations that are created under the hood, which is conveniently something we don't have to think about, but it's nice to inspect so that we understand what's going on behind the scenes. Scrolling down a bit to collection keys. So created for us are trainable variables, and the one that we've created manually was my collection. Trainable variables contain the set of all variables inside of the graph that can be trained. In other words, they're the ones that will be updated when backpropagation updates are applied. Variables is the set of just every single variable, so all trainable and untrainable variables. And my collection is just containing the z variable that we inserted earlier. We can retrieve any specific tensor we want from our graph by calling get tensor by name. We have to append the :0 because remember that all variables are actually secretly operations, and the output of the operation is the variable's tensor. So if we call get tensor by name on x, we get its actual underlying tf tensor object, its value. But if we call get operation on x, we actually get the variable operation, tf.operation, which has type variable v2. The v2 is not something you need to think about. That's just TensorFlow updating the way it represents variables under the hood. Last but not least, let's look at how we handle multiple graphs. Right now we've only seen the TensorFlow default graph, but we haven't seen the context of using more than one graph in the same kind of programming environment. So first to illustrate, if I tried reassigning x to a get variable here, I would get a value error. It would yell at me that we're still inside the default graph that we were in earlier, and I'm trying to do an assignment on a variable that already exists. However, if I would like to create the variable x but inside of a different graph, all I have to do is call g equals tf.graph. I'll create a new graph object, and then you say with that graph as default, which will mean anything inside of this with context will be set to have our graph g as the default graph. So let's see that, make sure that's true. We can then do the assignment that we wanted to do earlier, get variable x, and this will actually create a new variable x, and it will have its graph as g, and it will not be the graph that we saw earlier as the default graph, since the default graph now is g. Printouts here confirm that the errors did not occur inside of the new graph context. While the graph provides the definition for all the computations we may want to run, the session is what actually allows us to run those computations. When we create a session, our graphing devices, like our CPU or GPU, are bound to the C++ runtime, something we'll dive into in the advanced sections near the end of the course, section 5 in particular. In practice, the code on the right shows how the majority of users interact with the TF session object. We first define our operations, which get associated with the default graph, and enter a session context via the with statement seen here. Note that we can customize our session with many available parameters in its constructor, such as specifying a specific graph to use. And as usual, if we don't specify a particular graph, the default graph is used. The first session run call is almost always on the global variable initializer. There is also a local variable initializer and table initializer, which we will use in the future videos. After we get the essential boilerplate code out of the way, we can run our computations with the session run call. Here we run z, which is the multiplication operation of x and y. Running any operation will return the operation's outputs, which in this example is an array of shape 2 by 1. Let's see some more complex outputs by running this in the Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so I scroll down, I make sure to reset the default graph so that we're in a clear graph context. I assign my variables like I did earlier. I start by getting the common boilerplate out of the way with tf session as sesh. I then initialize all global variables, which are all x, y, and z, because variables, remember, are trainable and global by default. And then, as I mentioned in the slide, in order to run z, I just call output equals session.run. And so that will run the matrix multiplication operation of x and y, which is set to z, and it'll give us the output for that. So if I do a print statement here, we see that we get a array object. It's a NumPy array. When we actually run the operation of z, instead of getting a variable back when we print the output, we get the actual raw results in the form of a NumPy array. As always, make sure to read through the links here for an in-depth look at the topics covered today. Our next video wraps up our 3-part video series on TensorFlow basics with training, saving, and loading models. See you next time.